Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're actually going to be talking about making 2025 your year of transformation. And we're going to discuss what may have been holding you back year after year. Even though if you're on here, we all know you're a badass. You know what? As someone who has definitely dealt with many life transitions in her life and had to reinvent herself multiple times, I decided to fully immerse myself in this and really learning what life transition was all about and what it really required to make that transformation stick. I decided to do this close to almost 10 years ago after dealing with identity loss, identity breakdown, and ultimately dealing with the depression. Having to rebuild my life, that took almost 2 years. So I decided to start reading books, educating myself about what it really meant to be in a life transition, and empower myself and how that can really lead into a transformation. And I started realizing that there was this pattern that if we really want to make sustainable changes, we really have to do one thing. And that was to own the chaos and the uncomfortableness and use that transformation to heal so that we live a more fulfilled life. Now, why do I bring up healing and inner fulfillment? I've been through my reading and my observation in my own experience that people don't commit unless they have a breakdown to break through. And what do I mean by that? Often it's a job loss, a health scare, an identity crisis that really causes people to look at their lives and their choices that they're making. And being that it's the new year, I don't want our lives to be about breaking down in order to break through. And I also know that there's people out there that have what many would consider success, but they live a very miserable and unfulfilled life. I have actually interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs thanks to my podcast, and I've gotten the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs who are millionaires, and I even worked with a billionaire. And this billionaire was absolutely miserable and made everyone around him miserable. I remember at one point we were getting ready to leave the office and go into the elevator, and I remember seeing like people avoiding the elevator, and I thought it was a little bit weird, and I'm like, what's going on? Why is everybody like to the side? And it just so happened that the CEO, the billionaire, was getting in the elevator. I got in the elevator and I had spoken to him before, just a little here and there. And so I decided to take this opportunity to speak with him and ask him, hey, what does it feel like to be successful, to be someone in your position? And so I asked him, what does it feel to be successful? And he said to me, I'm not successful. And I'm like, you don't think you're successful? And he's like, no. He's like, Alibaba has 2 football teams. And I just remember thinking, wow, like my ego was judging him and thinking like, you have everything and yet you are still wanting more. And at that time, like I ended like having to do my inner work for my inner child and my own not enoughness. My inner child saw his inner child who was very wounded and him being stuck in never having enough. This is a man who owns homes all over the world. He has 2 planes, a football team. Those planes are fully staffed. Whenever he wants to go anywhere, we actually would call the pilots and they would get everything ready to go for him. And to think that everyone is always measuring themselves up to people that have a lot of money or a lot of success, and if they only got the opportunity to sit across from them or work with them, they would realize that some of them, like him, have their own wounds and don't even believe that they're successful. So I would really start to ask yourself, what does success really mean to you? What does it look like? And most importantly, why are you pursuing it? Are you pursuing it because you think it's going to make you someone? Do you think it's going to take care of all your inner child wounds that you may have? So ask yourself, why do I really want to make these changes? What is my inner and outer reason for it? So first thing I want to do is like really take a look at and reflect on 2024. And the reason I want to do this is because I want us to start developing that awareness of looking at our habits and our patterns, and not so much in our wins or losses or our failures, because failures really are just feedback. And sometimes, like, especially for me, I realized that those unexpected things that I lost, it was such a big opportunity and blessing. So for me, This same time last year, I was actually unhoused. I was living with a family and I didn't even have a room. And I was still recovering from my injury, so I couldn't really work. I had just gotten the okay to work part-time. And I remember that feeling like a blessing, that feeling like there was a path opening for me to start rebuilding my life. And that was just a year ago. I thought of the possibilities that I can get enough money to get roommates and get my own room. And I remember that started happening for me. I actually moved in with roommates in February, and I started doing work that actually helped the community. And it made me really proud because that was work that I've been wanting to do. And I started making the plan that I was going to be living on my own by the end of the year. I wanted a place that was no less than 5 years old. I wanted the appliances to be newer. Like, I wanted the place to be nicer than the place I even had before all of these things started happening to me. And fast forward to today, I actually am living in a new apartment. That is a reflection of everything that I had been visualizing and praying for. And where I am today is that I actually lost my job 2 weeks ago. And you may be thinking, well, what is the blessing in that if it seems to kind of reflect what was going on last year? For me, the true blessing in that is that I was actually able to see how much my inner work and my outer work has really shown me that I am a totally different person than who I used to be. And it gave me the opportunity to really own what I want, which is to launch my own business. I love content creation. I love doing this. I love speaking. I love doing workshops. And I want to figure out a way to be able to do that, to work for myself. I, of course, am still going to be looking for work. Obviously, when you launch your own business, it doesn't happen overnight. But I want to take this opportunity while I'm looking for work to really fully immerse myself in doing this. When we talk about really creating that new character, and for me, that character that brought me to this point, it really is all about awareness. It all begins with awareness of yourself. If you don't know thyself, how are you going to change yourself internally and outwardly? And it really all starts with your mindset. For me, it was all about switching my mindset, going from survival mode into becoming in a more peaceful state and refocusing myself on the present moment. I no longer wanted to act out from my inner child. I wanted to be the adult. I wanted to start reparenting myself and know that I can rely on myself, that I had my own back. Many times when you're in that state, you're looking to be rescued. You're looking for someone to save you. And at the end of the day, it's beautiful to have a community. It's beautiful to have friends. But the only one that can really do the inner work and the mindset is you. And if you take these opportunities to really make that change, they can now change your life, not just in this moment, but moving forward. So pay attention to how you're reacting. Where is it coming from? We can't heal what we cannot face. You cannot become this new character by acting in your old habits. After your awareness, I want you to learn how to ground yourself in that, how to go to a place where you're able to process all this and see if the work is working, if the inner work is showing up in your outer experiences. I want you to ask yourself, what are some of your habits that you would really like to change? Are you easily angered? Do you procrastinate? Do you self-sabotage? And if you heard my accent in that last one, sabotage. Number 2, like I just mentioned, do you have a self-care routine, a place where you can go sit and contemplate and process? For me, it was journaling. And I've often mentioned this. I love dance classes because sometimes there just are no words. And third, which is so important, do you have a way to stay accountable and to get feedbacks? We're not an island within ourselves. Sometimes we need someone on the outside to help us and to be really fully immerse ourselves into really knowing ourselves and to be able to make those changes. And if you don't have that, the way you can do that is, I've mentioned therapy, but it's also good to start making new friends and a new community, one that reflects who you're becoming, but also someone that reflects your behavior. Someone that is able to keep you accountable and be honest with you. One of the techniques that I really want to share with you that really helped me in very difficult times when I found it, like I was very aware of my habits and, my reactions, and not taking time to breathe before I, let anger get to me, or again, being triggered, is reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He actually teaches you how to ground yourself in your body. He says for a lot of us, there's something called the pain body, and that's something that's stuck within us that hasn't been able to move out. It's stuck energy. And what he said, I just took so into practice, is that you take a moment to breathe, you settle in, and you say to yourself, I know this is the pain body. Anything from the past, I see it, I accept that it's there. Don't make an identity of it. Don't let it turn into thinking. And then you take a deep breath. And I remember, because you're going into yourself and you're thinking and you're going through this process, all of a sudden what bothered you doesn't bother you anymore. And you're able to realize that you're really making those changes by grounding yourself in yourself and in this present moment. I really want you to think of this quote that he says in his book. For many of us, what keeps us stuck is that we're either identified by the past, or we're always wanting for this fulfillment in the future. We really want to start embracing fulfillment in this moment. For me, it was so important to get beyond my identities, because that's ultimately what created a breakdown and leads a lot of people into a life transition. Because we're so stuck in being identified on our titles, on the things we do, on the money we make, and we don't really get to know who we really are. And for me, a lot of that had to do with healing my past. Growing up in trauma, not having that emotional regulation, not having that way to process everything that was going on, I didn't have the opportunity not only heal, but to be able to process all of that. And one of the things that he says in his book is, so often we are disempowered because we think we are what happened to us or what someone did to us. Not realizing the way we can erase that is by bringing ourselves to the present moment and knowing that we have a choice on how we move forward in our lives. Fulfillment is a practice. Happiness is a practice. There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics where he talks about how they did research on how people pursuing thinking of happiness outside themselves often leads to even more depression, and how people that are happy actually practice happiness, not just with gratitude about the things they have, but actually sitting in that feeling. What makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled? And it's an everyday practice. And for a lot of us, if we only knew that happiness is a practice, that's what starts changing us internally. And when we're happier, we believe in ourselves more. We have more confidence. We're able to do things. So I would really say that if you're looking to change your life, is doing these practices of being more happy and having that feeling of fulfillment. If we're thinking about rebranding ourselves for 2025, the words that should come to mind is, at least for me, is healing, growth, and fulfillment. Transformation really starts with visualization. Visualizing the life you want. Then it's about feeling that life deeply and allowing those feelings to guide your actions. I want you to start imagining what that successful person feels like. Start setting aside every day 10 to 30 minutes, if possible, to envision this successful person that you want to be, so that your actions come from that and you start embodying that energy. You're setting intentions, you're adopting new habits, and you're letting go of the habit of being limited in your beliefs. Before I got this apartment, the way I started doing that is I created a whole new vision board, and I actually put it right in front of my monitor on my laptop, and I would stare at it every single day. Every time I went to go look at it, I set an intention. And although when I was wanting this, I wasn't working and I was injured, I would allow that vision to be able to see it in front of me in my monitor every time I looked at it. And I made sure every morning that I would look at the monitor and just envision that for myself, and before I would go to sleep. But I also set time aside to be able to meditate and be in that vision. I actually visualized this apartment, what it would look like, what it would feel like. Then when I was able to, I started joining dance classes for beginners. And because I was still in physical therapy, I was always improving. I switched my mindset, stopped thinking about it as physical therapy, and started thinking about that I was going to the gym. And every time that I went to those dance places, I would tell myself, this is my community. When I'm going to dance lessons, when I'm going to the gym, when I'm going to physical therapy, whatever I'm doing, whatever you're doing, I want you to tell yourself, this is my community. And I feel like something inside of me started making me feel less and less alone and less isolated. Even the YouTubers I was following were all people that I aspired to be. Visualization is so important when you are not able to have that in front of you. And then starting to adopt those feelings on how you would already feel, what are the thoughts that you would already think having those things, and practicing that every single day, making that part of your routine. You may not have those things already, but the fact that you already have those routines set for you is already one change that you've already done. That doesn't require a lot of time or even for you to go or be anywhere. I've already mentioned having a community, but that community will back you up and give you that sense that you're already that person. When I was going dancing, I'm already a dancer, I'm already moving, even if I couldn't do the moves when I was there. When I'm going to physical therapy, it would show me how I was getting better every week by switching up physical therapy. And in my mind, it was the same thing as going to the gym. You're upping up the weights, you're getting stronger, you're getting more toned. And the final thing that I want you to do is that you've already done so much. Show yourself that the work is working. For me, I thought things were impossible. It's like, how am I gonna get from here? Being injured, not being able to work, not having my own place, being unhoused. But I was someone that started my own podcast even when they weren't that popular. I didn't know anything about tech. Then after that, I started putting up events, interviewing entrepreneurs, doing things that I normally didn't have any skills for. When I started dealing with things that were really triggering me, that a lot of people would think, well, that's natural. You were dealing with being unhoused or you're injured. How can you not get triggered? How can your survival mode not come up? When I actually grounded myself and told myself that in this moment, I'm going to ground myself, I'm going to respond differently, I'm going to be the person that I want to be, I'm going to reparent myself. Now, fast forward, that I have job loss, I see myself, I see the inner work that is working. My body being calm, being relaxed. I feel my faith muscle growing, that I know that these things are happening for me, that I know something bigger is gonna come out of this, even though I can't see it right now. Even my mindset is different. Yes, I have my moments where I feel like I'm gonna spiral or moments of being negative. I'm human, but the overall response is so different. So I really want you to take into account what you've done throughout your life, what you've already manifested. And the fact that you're watching these videos and you're gonna be doing these techniques and have your own techniques means that you're already being that person without fully even having to be there. I want you to remember that transformation is a journey and life transition is extremely difficult. But there's no reason why you can't take these chaotic moments and use them to live the life that you want. So if you're dealing with job loss or anything big in your life, just know that you're not alone. And share it here so that we have this community that we're able to come back to. And if you feel that you're already struggling, make sure to check out the video on creating your own blueprint. Thanks so much for watching.